Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I'm still Jim Stump, even after all these years. And before we go to the question of the day, I'd like to follow up on a couple of things from yesterday, right? First of all, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a shirt hanging up there. And someone sent me a comment and they said, why are you hanging your laundry on your post? And I said, well, the idea it's not laundry. I put it there for a reason. What that is, it's a technique used for people who want to heal themselves and they want to improve their self-esteem and get over depression and like that. It's just a technique. It's a way of expressing oneself and producing something that makes you feel good about yourself. And what it is, that's art. It's original artwork from a gentleman placed on a T-shirt, right? Just so that he can see it and have people comment on it, whether they like it or not. It's just the idea that he accomplished something, made him feel better about himself and his place in the world. It's not about having great art. So the reason I put it there, because a gentleman I'm talking to, we were discussing that type of technique. He said he was interested in it, but we weren't doing FaceTime or anything. He couldn't see me. I couldn't show him the shirt like that. So I told him I would put it in the post because he says he watched it as a post. So I just put it up there. I have a few others. I might display them for his benefit and anyone else who's interested. And if anyone is interested in that idea and want to know more about it, let me know and maybe we'll discuss it in the future, right? It's just a way of getting over depression, feeling better about yourself. It's a technique we can discuss if you like. That was one thing from yesterday. Another thing is, a couple of days ago, I posted a post and I entitled Three Gentlemen and a Bucket, right? Three Gentlemen and a Bucket. And a lady commented in the comments below, and she told how she gave her coat to a woman who needed a coat. And she said, I was willing to be cold for one day so that someone else could be warm for the winter. I thought that was just a wonderful comment and a wonderful thing the lady did. I'm willing to be cold for one day so that someone else can be warm for the winter. Works for me. That's the kind of stuff a lot of us do. We're just trying to help each other out. It's a hard place to be in this world and try to figure things out and be successful and be happy and be a benefit to the people that you know in your life. And so if we help each other along the way, we're doing a service that hopefully comes back to all of us tenfold. Now, on to the question. This again happened yesterday. I was speaking to a gentleman and he asked me this question. He said, why am I willing to do for others what I'm not willing to do for myself? Why am I willing to do for others what I'm not willing to do for myself? Of course, I immediately blurted out, well, maybe you don't think you deserve it. And, he stopped and he thought, he said, there's something to that. There's something to that. There's something about that, rings true. It feels right to me. And then it opened up a discussion of where that comment came from, right? Years ago, this is kind of convoluted, and I'm trying to keep the presentation of the information straight so we can all understand it. But years ago, I read about this study that was done about ethnic patterns. Now, they were talking about Americans who were descended from people in Europe, mostly the European countries. So they said if you were French, you behaved a certain way, and that pattern gets passed down into your family, right? If you're Spanish, you behave another way, Italian, and so forth. And so what these researchers said was, tell us where your family is from, in Europe, what part of the European continent that your family came from, and we'll tell you your family's traits. And the thing of it is that they were extremely accurate. It was amazing. You could say I'm French, German, and they'll give you a combination of things that your family probably does. And you stop and think about it and say, how did they come up with this? Well, apparently a group of psychologist researchers, they studied behavior patterns in certain groups in Europe. In other words, the French behave a particular way, and it might be different from the Spanish or the Italians in some way, or the Germans. And maybe people in Denmark or Finland behave in other ways. And they could identify certain national traits and belief patterns and behaviors, right? And they say if you're from these places, you're likely to have these things in your family. Now, how does that occur, right? That was the question. How do we get from my French German background from 1726 to the year 2023, let's say? We're almost at 23. How does that happen? It gets passed down through the family, right? This may be kind of difficult to describe, but I've worked with it, I've lived with it, and I've noticed it, and I've come to believe in it fully. Let's say a particular group of people have a certain attitude about life. It could be anything. It could be that people are out to cheat you, or people are out to do the best they can, whatever their belief pattern is, right? And they live according to that. And the adults in a situation believe it and say it, and they behave in a way that is in line with their beliefs and what the things they say and talk about as far as what they think of the world, right? That gets passed down to the children almost by osmosis. It's not that the parents had to sit down and educate the kids as to how to be in the world or how their background would see different things and patterns in the world. They didn't have to do that. They just had to be themselves. And as they're being themselves, the kids pick up those patterns and those beliefs, and almost by osmosis, they're just downloading it from the parents to the next generation. And what happens from there is that generation, the kids, when they grow up and become parents, they're passing on a lot of the same beliefs and behavior patterns from their culture of background to their children. And it can be passed down generation after generation for a very long time before it's eventually stamped out or changed, if it ever is, right? And so that's the idea. It gets passed down. So coming back to this gentleman who asked me, he said, why am I willing to do for others what I'm not willing to do for myself? And I stopped and we thought about it, and I said, well, maybe you think you don't believe it. You don't deserve it. Maybe you think you don't deserve it. And where that came from was I was thinking about his parents were children of the Depression, right? His grandparents were in the Depression. His parents were probably towards the end of the Depression, like that. And they picked up this whole idea about the world being unsafe financially, and that you always had to save money. You didn't waste money. You were frugal. You tried to help people wherever you could. But as far as yourself was concerned, you didn't waste your money, right? Conserve it, because we're fearing that the world is unstable and we're going to need financial resources in the future. And sometimes when we're young, we translate that whole idea of saying, we're not going to spend money, we're going to save it. Kids translate it into, I'm not worth spending the money on, right? I'm not worth it, so my parents are not going to spend the money. And another part of that is, if my parents do spend money on me, I feel badly because I think I've hurt them in some way. I've caused them to spend money that they would rather save, right, and keep on hand for a rainy day and like that. Might develop these ideas of I'm not worth having the money being spent on me. And so that's what happens. We're willing to help other people out, but something in our basic belief system tells us that we need to conserve money, don't spend money foolishly, and don't spend it on yourself for things that are not necessities, right? And somehow or another that can be transmorgified into believing I'm not worth spending money on. So that's where that comment of mine to this gentleman came. And as we discussed that pattern of transforming or passing down ideas and belief patterns from family, from generation to generation, he was able to identify it. He said, you know something? You're absolutely correct. My parents were always worried about money. They were always saving it. They were always not spending it. They told us to be frugal. We would help our neighbors. Of course, we would do for other people because we believed that was the way to be in the world, way to be a good person in the world, like the lady who gave a coat, right? That's what we're supposed to do, but we don't waste money on ourselves, right? And so sometimes we can think, okay, I'm not going to waste this money on myself, maybe because I don't deserve it. I'm not worth it. And it's that kind of stuff that gets translated into sort of a negative thought pattern. So when he thought about it, he said, that's where it comes from. He says, I see it now. My grandparents were absolutely solidly in the Depression. That's how they came up, right? They understood all that. they passed that lack of confidence in the world onto my parents, and my parents passed that on to me. All right. So he's saying, I get it now. It all makes sense. Now the question becomes, well, that's an old idea in the sense that I've been living with it for a long time, and it is no longer entirely accurate. That is to say that I'm doing well now. I'm making a good living. I own a home. My kids are taken care of. We have cars. We have clothes. We have all the food we need, etc. And I have money in the bank. Also have savings accounts and this, that, and the other. I don't need to be that frugal. I could actually, splurge a little bit and enjoy something, right? And so he says to me, okay, how do I break this pattern? Because it's really strong in me. I don't want to spend money on myself. I don't want to do things for myself. I said, well, what if we start with little things? All right. The whole idea is to make change incrementally. Let's start on a little thing. I say a little thing doesn't necessarily have to do with money. Let us say that you're working at a job and you have the ability and you have time off coming to you. And what if you just took an afternoon or a day and say, we're down here in LA, so we might say, go to the beach, just walk the beach because it's peaceful, serene. It clears out your mind. It allows you to restore your energy and, your emotional balance, etc. It gives you some sort of a interest to going back into your job and doing it better, and etc. What if you just took and gave yourself some time? Normally you would say, no, I have to work, walking along the beach isn't going to profit me anything. I better not do it. You might think that because we come from the attitude that we don't deserve something, or we shouldn't squander or waste something like time. Like they say, time is the most precious thing anyone has, right? So we don't want to squander that. I better go back to work. I say, what if we just sort of challenge that a little bit? Take an afternoon off, go walk along the beach, air your mind out. How about that? Or maybe there's something else you'd like to do. Maybe you just maybe you want to go to a movie. I haven't been to a movie in a long time. Didn't want to spend the money because the prices are going up. If that's something you enjoy. Maybe you just want to take a drive. And the reason you haven't been going out and driving in the country is because gas prices went up. You don't think you should spend the money on the gas because it's pointless just to go out and drive for the fun of driving, right? Let's do something for ourselves, something small. I tell some folks, when you accomplish something, you need to acknowledge the success of it and you need to reward yourself. Even if you go to the drugstore and buy yourself your favorite ice cream cone, do something to acknowledge the fact that you are proud of something that you accomplished, right? Little things. And it could be all sorts of different ideas depending on who you are and what you value and what you enjoy, right? Some people just go and be around animals. They go to a dog shelter or something like that and maybe just spend time with dogs or cats or anything else that's there. I saw on the news the other day they had an animal shelter, had rabbits, it also had an iguana, and it had a turtle. I really wanted that turtle, but by the time I saw the show, the turtle had been given a nice, fine new home. But the point is to go out and do something you enjoy, whatever that is, right? Some people like to be in nature. So just find a nice nature walk somewhere and go out and enjoy it. That doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, right? But it's something you can do to honor yourself and to do something for yourself and not just doing things for other people and always denying yourself. So why is it that I'm willing to do for others what I'm not willing to do for myself? It comes from the way that ideas, beliefs, and behavior patterns can be passed down through the family. That's one way it can get there, and it's a very strong way. There may be another reason for it. But by and large, when you can't put your finger on a behavior pattern that you do, but you do it, and you know that it felt right for your family, etc., it was probably a generational sort of a thing. So you might want to look at that sometime. Think about the influences of your generational inheritance, let's call it that. Is it still working for you? I'm not saying that it's not working for you. I'm saying just look at it. Spend some time thinking about it. Is there something you want to change? And why would you want to change it? Do you have a better behavior pattern? Do you want to reward yourself just a little bit where you've been denying yourself over and over and over? We should be able to enjoy some things in life, or there's not much point in living it, right? Anyway, it's just a thought. Why do I do for others what I'm not willing to do for myself? Could be generational. What do you folks think of that? Do you identify something of that in yourself, or do you think it's some other reason you might behave that way? Let me know in the comments below, or please send me those emails. I really enjoy them. I learn a lot from them. Email address, of course, is counselorscouch101@mail.com. Why do we do for others what we won't do for ourselves? Please let me know what you think. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time.